Welcome to the Vera show, where testimony, reality and truth meet you at the front door. Perspective to propose. Politics, religion, we talk about the real world we live in. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it on the Vera show. From purpose, uplift, encourage, inspire, motivate, and let's talk about it on the Vera show. The Vera show.
Hello, hello, hello. I am so excited about my guest today. Hello, John Kennedy.
Hi, Vera.
How are you?
Thank you.
I am so excited to have you here. And before we get all deep into our conversation, let me share a little bit about John Kennedy. He is a neuroplastician, author, and director of the Mental Performance Institute. John Kennedy is a neuroplastician, author, director. I already said all that. And he's known for pioneering applied neuroplasticity and creating the world's first targeted neuroplasticity training called TNT. And it was a program that he did in 2007 at the request of the U.S. Department of Defense, mentalperformanceinstitute.org. Now, he has his work blends process efficiency consulting with cognitive science to help people achieve peak performance. I am going to shut up.
You're doing great. You're doing great.
And I'm going to give you the floor and let you share even more about John Kennedy. And we're going to start with the question, what was your childhood like? How did it impact you? And how did it move you into the journey that you have experienced?
Well, actually everything, it's funny. Steve Jobs says you can only connect the dots looking backwards. If I look back at my life, really my childhood was very instrumental in getting me where I am now. So I grew up in a town called Brewster, New York. We lived in the oldest house in the county. It was built in 1719, if you can imagine.
Wow.
And so my dad, we had 4 boys, right? So in an old house like that, about 12 acres, there's lots of work to do. So, and my dad loved having 4 helpers to get out there and do all the work. So we did. So, and what I've learned about neuroplasticity now is that we learn, as a young age, we learn that the foundational cognitive skills that we rely on are really formed by modeling from adults and interaction with our environment. And so back then, we were never outside. We think we watched Bonanza once a week on the old TV in my parents' bedroom. The rest of the time we're outside, exploring, fishing, building forts, all those kind of things in the woods. And then a really significant turn in my life happened when I was a sophomore in high school. My dad was actually the director of patent licensing for IBM Asia Pacific, which meant that any new invention, any new device from all of Asia or Africa that wanted to get licensed by IBM had to come through my dad, which meant it came over our dinner table. So I lived in Japan. I went to the most amazing school, St. Mary's International School. We had 50 different nationalities and about 200 kids. 8 nationalities on my basketball team. And you learn, we can teach all this, diversity and all this unity. But when you experience it, we didn't care what nationality we're on our basketball team. Can you pass and shoot? That's what's important. And we had the most amazing high school. And actually, those friends of mine, I just had a reunion last year. So we still keep in touch. This is almost 50 years ago now. So, and being in a foreign country, learning a way around a foreign country was a huge experience for me. Plus all the new, it always piqued my curiosity, what my dad would be talking about, what new inventions were coming out. And probably a really significant part of that was I really wanted to learn Japanese. And in Tokyo, where we lived, all the Japanese want to speak English, right? So we're always talking English. So I kind of devised this plan with a couple of my buddies, and on the weekends, we would try to get ourselves lost. So basically, Japan's very, very safe. So we take a train to the end of the line and then a bus to the end of the line. We wanted to get somewhere by line. Nobody spoke English. The sign Japanese. And so then we'd spend the rest of the day trying to find our way back. And it's interesting because we had to speak Japanese. I never really learned Japanese as well. Some of my high school buddies tease me about that, but I got really good at solving problems. And that's what has been the rest of my life. My dad says nothing's a waste of time if you learn from it. And so I've done more things. I've worked in factories, I've worked in business, I've worked in IT, I've done all these different things through my life. And each one I learn and bring it back into the core of how I can help people. So I was a consultant then for many, many years, highly sought after consultant in the Chicago area based on improving process re-engineering. But again, it all goes back to when I was a kid, growing up, trying to solve.
Wow, that's amazing. And I want you to explain what neuroplasticity is. And now this video that I have, I'm thinking I want to play that video to kind of explain. And if you could kind of give us a preview of what this video is about.
Yeah, the video, June Lee, our amazing graphic person for our company, put this together. And it basically shows the wide range of people that we're able to help with the Kennedy method, which is the applied neuroplasticity program that I created. Neuroplasticity, and it's really important people understand this, everything we do, say, or even think, if we repeat it, those are the ruts that form deeper. And so when we repeat things, that's what forms those ruts. And applied neuroplasticity was as a result of a contract the Marine Corps gave me to try to improve intuition to save lives in combat. And basically, I applied my process re-engineering methodology to the brain using neuroplasticity, which is the ability of the brain to change, and an agile approach for continuous improvement. And that's basically what developed the very first, I call it combat brain training because it was for Marines going to combat, but that's what it was based on. And this video is only a 1-minute video, but it will actually show the wide range of people that we've been able to help by making the brain, the core processing of our brain faster and more focused.
Okay, well, let's show this video and we will be right back. Train your brain is not a
Not a
game.
game.
Not
It's
a
not a
game.
game. No, it's not. And it's interesting. So every one of those stories, so there's a funny story about that. The very first one, the surgeon who can do a 6-hour operation, this says in 3 hours. When Roddy, the doctor that was based on, saw this, he goes, John, it was just 2 hours, not 3. And I said, but no one would believe 2. So he made it 3. But every one of those is a story. The quarterback this is based on is now the highest performing completion record quarterback in the Canadian Football League. The young boy with ADHD went from failing in school to student of the month within 6 weeks. The Marine platoon literally was the best. That was my first experiment. They were failing almost all their pre-deployment objectives. 3 months later, they were not only just the best in that battalion, but one of the best ever to go through final pre-deployment training. So every one of those is based on the people that I've been fortunate enough to help.
Oh my goodness. So explain how it works. I know you and I was supposed to experience this before you came on the show, but we didn't get that far. So I
still want to do that. And actually, that's one of the things we'll put out at the end call to action is I'll be able to, anyone who really wants to experience it, it's amazing. In 15 minutes, there'll be more folks in thinking faster. That's how it works. Now, the reason that happens and why we say it's not a game, because there's a lot of brain games on the computer and on phones and stuff. And you can always get better because you practice. But there's very minimal real world benefits because you're not engaging all parts of your brain. You're just looking at your eyes and maybe your thumbs. And so the core, really the core differentiator of my program, and the reason it is the only program of its kind in the world, according to the Department of Defense and particularly Special Operations Command, is because we use something called robust stimulation. Robust stimulation is the only stimulation that will start to change your brain immediately. So our brains are always changing. You know, you throw a football 10,000 times, you become a better passer. You know, you drive a car. You always are learning. Anything you repeat is getting better. But actually, so here's a good example. So I actually kind of view our neuroplasticity model, I call it the computer model. So neuroplasticity, remember, everything you repeat is what causes those changes. And so in the computer, we have applications. You've got your games, your browser, your office software, and you can upgrade each one of those, but it doesn't impact the others, right? It's very isolated. The same thing. So you can be the best quarterback in the world, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you can do other things as well, right? So part of that is the ability to change in one thing, and it takes a long time. Now, a very powerful part of the changes are at the psychological level. There's a lot of wonderful programs that I've partnered with and certified NLP coaches, DeMartini coaches, you know, therapists, coaches, any type of coach. They're working at the mind, right? And the mind is what filters everything. It's very important, just like the operating system in your computer. But where I work is specifically the CPU. So if you get a new computer, your operating system and every single application also works better. So that's why we have such a wide range, not just physical benefits and mental benefits, but emotional healing. We do a lot of work with people with trauma, and we don't cure the original, the trauma, but we remove all the symptoms so they don't get triggered anymore.
That is amazing. And I'm thinking, as you're saying, repetition and what have you, it's like it goes a step far beyond just affirmations.
Oh yeah, no, affirmations are good, right? But they take a while, right? And they're important because it's how we filter information. But they can take a while to get there. And obviously, you want to eliminate negative talk, right, and increase positive talk. But and part of the way the exercises work for the combat brain training is that we make those changes really, really fast. So typically, someone will start, again, we'll go through this so you can experience. The brain, what we've learned is we need to give the brain something really simple. So my daughter was 5 when I developed this for the Marine Corps. And I wanted her to be able to do this as well. So I like to say Simple enough for a 5-year-old, tough enough for a Navy SEAL, because I've trained Navy SEAls too,
Oh
right?
my goodness.
But everybody, when they first do an exercise, they think it's really simple. And the brain works really hard to do it. And then by the time they get down to the end of the exercise, they're actually doing it pretty easily. Because the brain is changing, and our brains always change fastest where they struggle the most. And it doesn't matter, again, if it's emotional, if it's physical. I mean, we have concussions, now great success with autism by rewiring the brain. And basically, the brain does all the work. We give it something simple to do that it actually has to work hard to do, and it will change wherever it needs to in order to do what we ask it to do.
So you said the change faster where the most difficulty is?
Yes, and it's interesting. So almost every other program, they start with assessments, right? They want to know where you're struggling so they can fix it. But we don't fix that. We don't want to fix anything, right? We want the brain to do what it needs to do. And our brains naturally, when it works hard, all these connections are being formed to do what we're asking it to do. And then those connections solidify. And our neuroscientists have had several help me say those changes are permanent. The other thing that happens is as those decisions are made faster and faster, we actually increase our processing speed. Because our brains will operate at whatever speed it needs to, because our brains are lazy, right? Unless we make it work. It's like you got to go to the gym to get stronger. You can't, you just can't watch someone work out on TV. And so our brain, it'd be nice, wouldn't it? Like, remember the old George Jetson? You'd be watching the guy working out. Most of your listeners are probably too young for that, but that's true. So what happens is when your brain is pushed to operate faster, your whole baseline improves. So that's why Roddy can do a 6-hour operation in 2 hours. That's why entrepreneurs can get twice as much done in half the time, because you're doing the same things you were before, but now because you pushed your comfort zone up to a faster processing speed, that's the new normal. That becomes your new normal.
That's amazing. And you said you can accomplish this within 15 minutes?
Well, more. So usually within an hour. So, but the demonstration I give people, it's down to just 15 minutes. It's really amazing.
And you actually see the change.
Oh yeah, they feel the change. They feel the change. So it's kind of cool because about 15 years ago, we started, we needed a consistent metric of performance that we could use, for everyone we worked with, because we don't do any other type of assessments. And anyway, so this is basically, we call it a speed drill. And it's how long it takes you to process a certain number of decisions. But those decisions, you have to use all parts of your brain to make them. So eyes, ears, mouth, hands, which engages both sides of your brain. So we get your body, you get the more body connections, the better. And that's where the connection will happen the fastest. And so we validated now over 15 years that as your brain changes, it gets faster. And so typically in 15 minutes, I can help someone improve their processing speed by 10 to even 30 seconds. I mean, it's amazing. And as I'm working with them and they're feeling it, their focus is getting better. We're really trying to create flow state, which is getting down into the unconscious. Because when we're processing unconsciously, we don't worry, we don't stress, we remove our anxiety, and actually the actual processing speed gets much faster. We call it being in flow state or being in the zone. Everybody's experienced that at certain times, right? Where things are just happening. You're not even thinking about it, and wow, all of a sudden, wow, I can't believe I got that done. So we can create that with these exercises, and then we have some neural primers. So the neural primer, we have a 1-minute neural primer and a 5-step. And so I always train people, run through a neural primer before you do anything, before you have
now explain neural primer.
Yeah, neural primer, yeah, that's what we call it, because in just a minute, you can go through this exercise and your brain will be faster. It's like a real quick mental speed up, refocus memory drill. And it's basically priming the brain. So whatever you're going to do afterwards, you're going to be able to do better and faster.
Wow.
So I got a great story on that. So one of my clients, Lydia, she was great. She lives in Montreal, had just started a construction business. So woman, male-dominated industry, a lot of stress, overwhelmed, right? Trying to get a certification. We started working together. And she would do these neural primers 5, 6, 7 times during the day, before proposals, but when she got up in the morning. And she was noting that she was getting things done better and faster every time she did this. And after 3 weeks, it's pretty cool. I got an email from her after 3 weeks. She said she freed up so much time in her schedule she could start dating again.
Oh
So
my goodness.
her whole life improved. Oh, and then she said, and it's kind of funny, she goes, oh, and I lost 12 pounds. I said, wait a minute. If we can make this a weight loss program, this is a $40 business, right? So I said, how did that work? And she said, well, I used to be a stress eater. So whenever I got stressed, I go up and I'd eat something, right? Because a lot of people do that. You know, we're addicted to some kind of dopamine. Well, the exercises actually create dopamine. They release dopamine. So she said she found that when she got up to go to the refrigerator, she would run through one of the exercises. She got her dopamine hit. She got refocused, and she went back to work. So
wow.
she wasn't eating anymore. You know, she wasn't stress eating anymore.
That
So,
is awesome. And some people, some people are stress eaters, and I'm just the
yes.
opposite. When I'm stressed, I don't eat,
Okay.
at
Yeah.
all.
But that's not a great diet, right? To get stressed.
No, that does not make for a great diet.
Right, right.
Now, explain CPU.
Yeah, so CPU is that's normally so in our computer, the actual processor, it's called the central processing unit. So anyone who works in computers knows what a CPU is. And that's basically the basic, it's called the BIOS, basic basic in and out system. So basically it controls the flow of data. So anything you do on your computer has to go through the CPU. And so you get a new computer, everything runs better because the CPU is faster. And that's what we try to create, make that faster CPU so everything in your life is easier.
Okay. And I asked about it because I wanted you to do just what you did, equate it to what it is that you're doing and
Yes, right,
how it relates and connects.
right, right.
That's amazing. Now, autism. You said that
Okay,
you've actually helped with autism. You want to tell us more about that?
yeah, we did. So typically what happens, I've been doing this for many years. People will come and say, do you think you can help with this? So cerebral palsy is one, where a young man now can use his hand for the first time. All kinds of learning disabilities, Guillain-Barré disease, all these different disorders, all these kind of things. I'm always amazed. I always say it can't, but they always get better because we're wiring the brain. So autism is something that became upon us recently. I worked with, I did some programs for Southern Utah University. Great university. They're the only university in the country now that has a brain training program for students that I developed for them, an online video series. So it's great for students, right? So you want to send your kid to a school that's going to make sure that they get better grades. So SU did that. Well, I also did an online kind of a webinar, and there was a woman on there whose son was autistic, and they'd spent thousands of hours and dollars trying to improve his reading speed to the normal of I think they're trying to reach 195 or 200. That's like the baseline. And his was around 185. It was lower than normal, no matter what they did. So he participated in that webinar, and the mom was shocked. His reading time went up to 203 after just the one session. And then, I certify other trainers. And so one of my certified trainers, Tim Stewart, amazing guy, he started working with a young man with autism. So a 20-year-old young man at home. And again, we don't know what's going to happen until it happens. And he went through one session with his dad. His dad did it with him. And we have the most amazing video testimonial, which I think it's on our YouTube channel. And he said that day, his son went from a almost nonverbal to a chatterbox. He sat down and watched 2 movies with his dad, right? He'd never done that before. And he removed the invisible barrier around his room. So one of the theories around autism spectrum disorder is it's a filtering issue. Right, so poor filtering, and that's why they want their space, right? They want the same thing over and over again, so they don't have to think about it. What we know from the foundational processes that my program helps, it significantly improves filtering. It helps analysis, which is breaking things down, synthesis, putting back together. So I believe that's why it's so successful with autism, because we're improving the brain's ability to filter, and then their comfort zone can expand to the ability that they can to filter information.
Now, would that work with a child that may be autistic, but also has a combative piece to their autism?
Well, a lot of times, and again, never promise any, but a lot of what would be considered psychological issues are really neuroplasticity issues. It's really processing issues. So when we get frustrated, typically it's because so we have a whole framework of these skills. Now, the people I train don't need to know this, but it's what the model's based on. And typically, wherever you get frustrated, it's because one of your processes is overloaded. So we all have a different mix, all different mix of these processes, which are developed throughout our lifetime. And our stronger ones will always compensate for the weaker ones. It's like an example would be if you have a really neat desk, right? And you're trying to find something, you know exactly where it is, right? Well, in order to find where data is, you have to analyze it, synthesize where it is, and then remember it. Well, a lot of people have a messy desk, but they rely on their memory, right? But then someone moves something out of the way, they can't remember it anymore, right? So they don't have good analysis skills or categorization skills. They have a good memory. So the memory is compensating for the weaker other processes. But when all the other underlying processes get more efficient, they don't have to remember anymore. They know exactly where things are. They can figure it out. And that's kind of the same thing. So, autistic kid or any kids, a lot of kids get frustrated because of they just can't handle the data that's coming in, or they're weaker. So when those processes get stronger, then the frustration goes away.
Wow. So without going through the training or as a precursor to the training, are there some things that parents can do to help kind of regulate
Yes.
and
Yeah, a couple
okay,
of
and I'm
things.
going to
So,
put those things in the chart in the comments.
well, one of the things parents need to realize is about neuroplasticity. So if their kids are doing the same thing over and over again that they don't like, they need to find out what they're repeating. Now, I speak a lot to parents groups, and absolutely
Mm-hmm.
positively 100%, they need to get their kids off the phones. Absolutely off the phones. Especially before the age of 6 or 7, kids don't need phones. They can figure stuff out. All the excuses they have. We learn from interaction with our environment and modeling from adults, especially up until the age of 6 or 7, and that's when the foundational processes that we use for the rest of our life are formed. Many years ago, they did experiments in South Korea, which is a very connected country, and they found that kids that started on their phones that young, by their early 20s, were already starting to develop dementia. We call it digital dementia.
What?
Everything on a phone is wired to get kids addicted. You've probably seen the videos. Young kids, the parents try to take the phone away, and the kid has a meltdown.
Yes,
Well,
and the thing is, parents are using their phones
yeah,
as babysitters
right,
for their
exactly.
kids. Like when they go different places, or
Yeah.
the first thing they do is they give their kid, and we're talking toddlers,
Oh,
and
I know, and it's just lazy parents. I mean, now don't want to offend any parents out there, but they're being lazy because kids need that interaction. They need parents to talk to them, to read to them. That's where they develop those skills. And as a result, we're seeing the first generation in history where this latest generation has a lower IQ than their parents
wow, and you
because of
contribute
the
that
phone.
to the fact because of the
Of the phone, they've
phones?
done studies. Yeah, they've done studies, and they found that all the decline started when phones came into our society.
Oh my
Now, the
goodness.
other thing, remember, kids also learn from modeling from adults. So the sad thing for me is that I walk by a playground, there'll be a kid on a swing or on the slide. Hey, mommy, look at me. And
Right,
she's
and
looking
they're
at her
on,
phone doing
yes.
some stupid Facebook. I mean, who cares? These are your kids. Right? I get really passionate about this. Kids need parents. They need engagement. They need to be looked at. They need to be acknowledged. They need to be strengthened. They need discipline, right? They need chores. Studies found that the single most important thing to self-esteem later in life is chores. You would never think about that,
Yes,
right?
I agree.
You give a child and let them fail. Learning
Yes.
how to fail. You know, we have this society where we protected our kids in these bubble wraps, and kids don't know how to handle disappointment. It's really sad. Let them fail. Let them figure it out. They'll develop their cognitive skills. And another really important thing for kids that parents don't think about is boredom. It's really, really good for kids to be bored. You know, we pack their time with so many activities, but it's when they're sitting there doing nothing that their brains are being creative, right? When you're sitting there doing nothing, you know, I remember we were growing up, you know, if I went to my mom and said, I'm bored, she'd go, well, I'll give you something to do, right? So, but it's that sitting there quietly and thinking and being creative and being bored, which is where all the imagination comes from. You know, give them a piece of paper and a pen or a paintbrush or something. But but boredom is really good for kids too. And it's sad that kids' lives now, nonstop, from the time they get up, the time they go between sports and school and homework and all these other things.
Wow.
It's just not good for kids.
And you know, you say, I mean, it is so important. Chores. I mean, I started giving my son chores because he was tall for his age. So
Okay.
at 4 years old, I was picking up big pieces off the floor and allowed
Yeah.
him to
Yeah.
vacuum. And you know, and then he was in the kitchen with me doing, you know, helping with cooking and what have you. I think
Yeah.
that's so important that children are given chores at an early age. They can pick up their own toys. They
Yeah.
can make their own bed at the age of
Right.
5 if you
Oh
show
yeah.
them.
Right. Right. Yeah. And they get self-esteem from doing that, right? They did it well.
Yes.
The other thing that's interesting, another thing that in research, and I actually gave a talk on this at a Marine base a number of years ago. You know, we talk about the terrible twos, right? That's when kids
Yes.
they get so frustrated. Well, the reason for that is they really, really want to please us, but we don't give them a chance. So for example, what will happen is the 2-year-old, he's got a mess all over the room, right? And mom will say, clean up your room. He has no idea how to do that. He'll throw a temper
Right.
tantrum because he wants to, you know, he wants to please mom, right? But he can't.
You
So
have
what the
to
mom
show
needs to do,
him.
yes, the mom
Yes.
needs to go and say, okay, here's your ball. Where do you think this should go? Let him decide over here. Here's your blocks. Where do you think they should go? Go through the whole room. Let him decide where it's going to go, and you can direct him. But now he knows where everything goes. So now when you say clean up your room, there's no fuss anymore, right? Because he knows what to do.
Yes.
He feels really good about accomplishing it. Mom says, oh, that's a great job.
Exactly.
And that sets the tone for the rest of his life.
It really does. I mean, it really does.
Yeah.
I'm a witness. I'm a witness. Um, and you have to model what it is you want them to do.
Yes.
You know, once
Right.
you show them how to do it, then they're going to do it and they're going to feel proud. They're going to come to you and say, look what I did. You know, I'm telling you.
Exactly. Yeah, interaction with the environment and modeling from adults. Those are the two most important criteria for developing the important cognitive skills that kids need.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm stuck on the phone thing because so many parents are giving their kids tablets and phones and also not giving them time because they're on theirs all the time as well.
Right.
And so
Right.
we really
Exactly.
need to audience, words can't express how important it is that you recognize
Right.
what technology is good, but also it can be damaging to confidence and self-esteem. And
Yeah.
and John just mentioned the studies show dementia,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and they're
early
so
dementia.
addicting.
Go ahead.
And they're so addicting, right? They're designed to be, you know, the joke was all the titans of industry, their kids go to Waldorf school where there's no electronics. At the same time, they're creating all these apps on phones to get our kids addicted, right? So they make money. Now, one thing I think is, I read someone, I thought this was a great suggestion. What this guy does in his house, do you remember when we were growing up, the phone was like, you know, in the hallway or somewhere else? And so what he does, he has everybody's phones in one place in the house. So if you need to use a phone, you go over it and you use it there, right? Or if it rings, you go over and use it there and you come back. But it's not attached to it. Like right now, our phones are like basically attached to us.
Yeah.
And so the temptations are always there. And so they're always scrolling. And every time you scroll and doom scrolling, you're releasing little mini adrenaline rushes and dopamine rushes. And that's where the addiction comes from. And it just gets harder and harder for kids to give that up.
Wow.
Well, and grown-ups too. So which kind of leads into, so one of the things we were talking about my book, Hack Your Habits in 30 Minutes. Not
Yeah, thank you. Let me pull your book up right quick.
So it's actually, it's on Amazon. If people want to read it, it's fine. I use it more when I speak at conferences and stuff to give it out. But it actually, and I'm a big thing about simplicity, right? That's why we can change the brain in 15 minutes. The book is the shortest book you've ever read. There's actually one chapter in there that has the meat of it. But we can change habits through repetition. And it's interesting. So I owe him an email. So Charles Duhigg wrote the book, The Power Habit, right? Seminal book. I use that. It's a wonderful book. And I noticed that recently he's saying that it's not just repetition that changes habits. So I actually talked to him many years ago, and I need to reach out to him and clarify that, because it really is repetition. What we do, the way we can change a habit in 30 minutes is we basically repeat the new habit we want using all parts of our body, concentrate in a very short amount of time. Kind of like the brain training. We take all these decisions we have to make and we compress it to a very short amount of time. And that's what solidifies those habits or solidifies the brain connections. So when I work with my clients, a lot of times that's what we'll do, right? So, actually a lot of times I work with my clients now, the work I did as a consultant was the process work. So I work for big companies, Motorola, Aon, C-Level. They have a really big problem. They bring me in to make it more efficient. So now I work with my clients. I can do that for their lives or their businesses. On the personal level, I can help them change any habit. And then obviously the brain training piece is huge. So I kind of combine all those now so we can top to bottom really make a huge difference in their life. Yeah, combatbraintraining.com is the website. It needs some work. We're in the process of rebranding everything and actually trying to certify more people to do what we do. But I'd love people to reach out to me, mentalperformanceinstitute.org, but also combatbraintraining.com. Is actually there's actually probably either one is good.
Well, I'm putting it in here. Combat brain training.com. Okay.
So like that logo there, Combat Brain Training, and then .com.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. So it's kind of interesting. So the reason there's a mentalperformanceinstitute.org is many years ago, I was doing all this great with Marines and stuff, and I was asked to speak at a number of brain neurology type conferences. I still am. I get asked a lot. I just don't do them anymore. And when I did it, I needed something besides combat brain training. So I came up with a Mental Performance Institute, and we do a lot of stuff from there. But that was basically for the academic side of the work. Now, the problem that I found was, because I still speak at business conferences, sports conferences, and so forth, education conferences. What I found from the medical type conferences is that everybody presented research, because in that area, you have to do research. And then you have peer-reviewed research. The problem I found with peer-reviewed research is that you miss the beat.
And I see. I don't have my glasses on. Go ahead.
So anything that's now, fortunately, they're starting to get more of an agile approach into research. But one of the problems with research, something wrong with it, but it takes a really long time. Used to be able to Google what is 17 years, and that was the accepted time between research and then something productive. Part of that is a peer review process, because you can't really come up with something new because it's got to be based on stuff that other people have done. So, and I don't want to knock it. They're wonderful people. I know wonderful researchers. So when I would present at these conferences, people would present research, and then I would just present results. And so, so I don't do medical conferences anymore, but I do a lot of, business conferences and so forth. People that are, because today, especially in business, entrepreneurs, we have to be innovative. We have to be able to react. Now with AI, McKinsey just had an article where the best thing a company can do in the AI world is to improve their brain power of their employees. So that's how I'm connected to the AI world, is trying to make sure that our human cognitive skills can stay up with the demands that AI is putting on them.
Okay, so let's talk about that, because AI is very challenging in a lot of areas. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of controversy about AI and the fear that it's going to take over for adults, so, or for jobs and what have you. So can you expound more on
Well,
how?
it's one of those things where everybody's right, right? So absolutely, some people say AI is going to create jobs, but it's going to create jobs in people that know how to use AI. It's going to cut jobs. Absolutely will cut jobs. I mean, from copywriters to, there's so many jobs that are being cut. Research assistants, right? Because AI can do it better and faster and cheaper. Even, something as simple as McDonald's, those kiosks at a McDonald's. A friend of mine worked for Pitney Bowes, and he's the one who put them in there. And the whole reason they put those in there was because minimum wage was rising. And when you raise minimum wage, it's cheaper to have a machine. And they also found that when people use those machines, they would order more. So the thing that's happening now, the pushback from that is a lot of companies, I can't remember the latest one, they've had to bring their people back. So they brought people in to train the AI, and now they bring the people back because AI only does, AI is context. It's not facts. It's not like a Google. And it's only as good as it's trained. And so it's this big kind of myth. Everybody loves it. I use Claude, I use Chat, and it really helps me with my research. Now, again, that's the other thing when you go back to kids, right? We're adults. We know what we're doing. AI can help us do what we're already doing. One of the big problems now is kids will write a term paper using AI.
Yes.
The problem is they might get an A on it, but they didn't do the work, which means their brain didn't do the work. Their brain didn't research. Their brain didn't put the ideas together. Their brain didn't come up with the conclusions. AI did.
So how do you avoid that happening? And does the educational system have things in place where they can ascertain whether or not this is an AI paper or whether or not the student actually did it?
That's kind of outside my realm, although I think, because I've read there's some teachers that have been posting, and they're trying to do their best. They're like, forbidding AI. If you use AI, you get an app for something, which is good. Another thing some schools are doing is they're taking phones out of schools, which is also very good. And so I think there is a pushback against some of the negativeness. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I have a very good friend, Rebecca Murtaugh. She posts on LinkedIn sometimes. She's working on a book. And her whole concern is the dehumanizing from AI, right? And so she has a whole program to help companies really put humans first, which can be done. Because if it's just profit, then we're not using the human potential that we have. So there's a lot of pushback. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. It's not going to go away, obviously.
No.
But and now all the power demands, and New York is the first state to restrict any further AI data centers being built because they use too much power, they use water, they pollute the areas. So that can all be good, right? Because they're going to have to now, develop their own power source. Maybe they'll be developing nuclear reactors, their own water. So they're going to become more efficient because of that.
I'm trying to understand, why does it take so much?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out too. I was reading some statistics the other day. Just some queries on chat use so much, basically because there's so much data that has to be gone through, right? So you've got the software, it's got to go through and find the data. It's got to come up with the things. And then, you want it to sound like you, it's got to take that data. It's just so much data that's being processed. And to us, it looks almost instantaneous, but in order to do that, it's a lot of speed. So
Yeah.
very fast processors, they need to be cool, they need to be somewhere. Um, so yeah, I was really shocked to learn how much computing power it does just to do some simple queries. You know,
Wow.
so
Wow. Well, now let me, as a result of the work that you did with the military,
mhm,
let's say, for example, given what's going on right now in our country and the fact that we are in a unnecessary war,
mhm.
can you give me like an example of how your program might be of such value now in the
Yeah.
military?
Well, even now, in fact, I'm going to probably be reaching out. I just put a proposal into special operations, a couple weeks ago through a friend of mine, a contractor. I haven't done military work in a number of years, but the demands are still there, and even more so, right?
Yes.
And so now we have a war going on. We've got to train, and why my program was so valuable to the military is it improved all their performance. So the very first example or opportunity I had was a test to work with a platoon of Marines. They were the worst performing platoon. They became the best. But as I continued to improve this, everything as entrepreneurs have to make tough decisions under stress, right? Multiply that times 100 if you're in combat, because people are trying to kill you.
Yes.
So better marksmanship, better decision making under stress, better teamwork, better cohesion, better land nav. Every measure that they use to improve performance improves significantly with my program. And so that's huge for the military. And I'll be reaching out again to some of the military people that I know, because I developed this. It was 15 years ago when I first developed for the military.
Wow.
20 years ago now. But the demands are the same, or if not more so. And so I will
Yes.
definitely be reconnecting. I mean, obviously, of all the people I work with, so many people, professional athletes, kids, the military is always my favorite. And in fact, there's a funny story in that book that I wrote. I remember I was at Quantico. I was training Marine Corps rifle and pistol teams, and of course, their marksmanship all got better. They loved it. But I remember my first presentation, because it was the first time I'd been with these guys, was to the officers. They had all kinds of questions. How does the brain work? How do you think it's going to work? Da, 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 da. So we spent like 2 hours answering questions before I could actually start my program. The next day, I'm working with the enlisted guys, right? The actual shooters. I started to explain it, and this one sergeant raises his hand. He goes, "Sir, we're Marines. Just tell us what to do, and we'll do it." And they did. And they did it. And they did great. All their marksmanship went up. So it's a matter of just doing it. And that's what I love about my program is you don't even have to, everything we talked about, you don't have to know any of that. All you have to do is do these very simple exercises and your brain will change physically.
Wow. And you have such a passion for this. I mean, it just permeates all through you. I can feel your passion for this. So what would you say to parents um, that can help them understand some things that you're doing and to get them to reach out to you? Combatbraintraining.com.
Yep, that's the
But
best.
we
Yeah.
begin to look at some things.
And yeah, absolutely. So parents, anybody, I love. So on the website, combatbraintraining.com, there's a place where they can reach me. You can set up a Zoom. I like to do Zoom to speak, or they can always email me. I can send them information. And I can send them actually a link to do a demo like I talked to you about earlier. I found the most effective way for people to understand what I do is just to spend a half an hour with me. Because it's hard to describe what actually happens so fast. But during that 30 minutes, 15 minutes of that will be taking them through just a chance to experience just the tip of the iceberg of what we can do. And as I mentioned, their processing speed will be 10, 20, even 30 seconds faster. And they will noticeably be more focused, and they will start to feel what flow state looks like.
Wow.
And so all these programs, I mean, there's a million programs about flow, but they're all psychology based.
Right.
Think about this, visualize this, and those are all good. I never want to knock anything else, but this is physically changing the brain to get into flow state. And then they can use those neural primers anytime when they have something tough that's coming up, or they want to get in a flow state, they can just run through that.
Wow. That is amazing. I've sat here all night and just kept saying, wow.
Well, thanks. You make me feel good. Yeah, it's great.
Well, I mean, this is
Well, and the thing is,
amazing.
well, thank you. It's good to hear because, I take it for granted. It's so funny, I've been doing this now for almost 20 years, right? And I've seen amazing, incredible, amazing changes of people. People with coming out of a coma and then a couple years later being able to play the piano. I mean, just amazing things. And so
Wow.
I started to take it for granted, but right, because I know it's going to work, right? So yeah, can you help me? Yes, absolutely.
That's
So I
amazing.
sometimes forget that. So
Yeah, and you also certify
yes.
others to do what you do. So talk about your certification.
Yeah, I actually love this. I started this last year, and typically who I certify are people who already have a program. They could be trainers, DiMartini coaches, psychologists, NLP trainers. I mean, anyone who already is comfortable working with people and already has a good program, right? Obviously, they care about people. That's why they do what they do. When they add my program to it, they get much better results. Every session starts engaging. The people want to get their speed time tested. Their brains are open. They're more, and then these people I certify themselves, they go through 6 hours of intensive brain training. So their life is much better. They can use it with their families. They can they can customize it. I help them customize it to what they're already doing, and they can charge more for their services because they're getting better results. So I'm really, really focusing more and more on certifying people as a way to get me out of the middle, right? Working through them, they can help a lot more people with my program than I can by myself.
Yes, and I think it's commendable that you want to start that or have train people and certify people,
Yeah,
because the
yeah,
more people that are certified in this, the more we can reach the world,
yeah, exactly. Right, right. Um, and that's the goal. The goal eventually is to be able to hire enough people. And actually, we can do it anywhere. I actually trained a professional rugby team in Japan last year. So I could train people all over the world. I've had clients all over the world. And there's a Delawareback is a friend of mine who actually has a translation service. So the goal would be to eventually be able to translate this to any language.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. And I'm just in awe of what you do, because I know there's such a great need out here for people to begin to look at their minds and what they're doing. Do you feel, can this, and I know you're not, well, let me back up, because you also mentioned that you have been working with doctors and in the
Yeah,
medical, and you
yeah.
decided that you didn't need to go that route.
Well, no, I love working doctors. I love researchers because I can help anybody. But the route I decide not to do, because of my work, I get invited to several brain conferences around the world every month. And the problem is that what I realize, and I love doing it. I love meeting people. And I always learn. I'm always trying to learn more and more. But their main purpose is to present research, and they got to get it approved, and it helps them in their career and so forth. And I'm just presenting results, right? It's funny. There's so many people have wonderful programs to help the brain out there. Most of them that I found, it's because they overcame something themselves, right?
Yes.
And it's great, right? They have a certain way. It's helped them, and they want to help other people, and I really commend them and I support them for that. I'm kind of unique because I was a consultant, right? I had a problem and I had to solve it. And so I'm coming kind of from out that. So I'm not, I'm always learning new things. I'm adding more things, trying to improve what I do. Some of the latest research is just really validating what we're doing by Yoshi and Greinberger. And it's just helping to understand why the program works so well. So I'm kind of results and backed it with research as opposed to research trying to get results. So coming at it from the other way.
Yes. And actually seeing results and then figuring it out later is I think the best way to do it, really.
Well, it is, especially because I only had 3 months my first experiment. I had to, and when you come things from the business world, if you're unsuccessful, you get fired. Right? So
Right.
I didn't make a difference, and these guys were going off to combat in 3 months, and I had to make a difference as quickly as possible. And so, using an agile approach, continuous improvement. So I started with some special ones. I expanded, contracted, and the Marines I work with, amazing. They did everything I asked them to, and they were doing all the exercises. And I was able to narrow it down to just 2 primary ones by doing that. And 3 months later, they went from the worst to the performing to the best,
Wow.
emotionally and psychologically as well as physically. They then deployed, and they were given an area 4 times the normal size for a platoon. They captured the most insurgents, and then that's how it spread, to Marine Special Operations, and then SEALs and snipers and pilots and EOD and
Wow.
amazing guys. I mean, my time embedded with the military, my all-time favorite times in my life.
Wow, that's amazing. And we could talk about this all day and with your energy about this. But one of the things I want to say to parents, you want to get in touch with John. And John, you are going to be one of the speakers for the Family Summit, right?
Yes, I am. Yeah,
All
that's a
right.
great.
Yeah, so
highly-
I'm so excited about this because it's going to be a family summit.
Yes.
Now, what I want to do, and I've got to talk to Christina about it, but what I really want to do, I want to have breakout rooms, one for elementary kids, one middle school, high school, and then adult children who have issues with their parents.
Oh, great idea.
Yes.
That's all kids, isn't it?
Everybody. I want a breakout room for everybody. And I need facilitators that would be specific for each one of those groups. And also the main stage will be where the parents will be. And it's called Family Powerhouse. Greatness starts at home.
Yeah.
Mark your calendars for September 15th, 16th, and 17th. Right now, we are pursuing getting our presenters. We can only get 12. We can only have 12 because it's from 5 p.m. until 9 p.m. on those days. And we're going to have a panel, which will be my show that Tuesday and that Thursday. So I'm really excited. Mark your calendar, September 15th, 16th, and 17th. Family Powerhouse. Greatness starts at home. And it's going to be a summit for the entire family.
That's great.
Not just the parents.
And the last family summit I was on with you, that was so good. This is even better.
Yes. So I'm excited. And maybe you can pull something together where you're actually in a breakout room.
Yeah.
Demonstrating what you do.
I could do that. I'd love to do that.
That would be awesome.
Do it.
That would be awesome. All right, I'm going to give you the last words because we only got a couple minutes. So I'm going to give you the floor. Thank you for being here. And thank you for all your wisdom and your knowledge as it relates to the brain and being able to train your brain to be smarter because you can do that.
Well, and I'm always learning too, right? So we never stop learning, and I'm always learning and improving. And I just thank you for this opportunity because I love doing shows because I can get the word out there. And the word I try to get out to people is hope. It doesn't matter if you're struggling at work or you're struggling with your family or your kids struggling in sports or with processing issues or physical issues. We can rewire the brain to overcome almost anything that's holding us back. And then also add an edge so that we can perform even better. And so that's kind of the message I like to give out there, that I want people to be positive about what's possible.
Awesome. Well, listen, thank you so much. And I am excited that you're going to be on the platform for the summit.
Me too.
Oh my, and we'll be talking more about that. And so I'm going to pull you down and then don't leave though, okay?
Okay, yeah, thanks. This has been great, Vera. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, listen, thank you for watching. And I hope that you gleaned quite a bit from this and how we can, in fact, make our brains smarter and not taking days and hours. It can start with a 15-minute session with John. Go to combatbraintraining.com. And please like, subscribe, and share the Vera Thomas Show. Your support is very important. And I really would appreciate you just sharing my show. So God bless you, and we will see you on next Tuesday. Have a wonderful weekend. Goodbye.
Let's talk about it. On the Vera Thomas Show. The Vera Thomas Show.